I decided one day I can do this. I can breathe. It's mind over matter. These are all sayings that we hear, but we just say, oh, I mean, those are just sayings, But what are words? What are words made out of? Letters. You spell the words out. You're casting everything into existence.
Skrrr. We're live.
Yes, sir. All right.
You do it.
This is Sav and Yoga.
This is Yoga and Sav.
This is Hindsight 2020.
Hindsight 2020, a brand new podcast from Yoga and Sav where we talk about all things in the Hindsight 2020.
All right. So let's give these guys a little definition on what Hindsight 2020 actually means.
What does it mean?
So Hindsight 2020 means it's a saying that basically says it's easy to know the right thing to do after something has happened, but it's hard to predict the future. So, meaning you can always go back, you can always think back and be like, man, that fucking sucked. I could have done this, I could have done this right, but hindsight's 2020. You learn from it. Now you can make a better future from what you have learned. So, this podcast basically is going to be about things that we see and we learn, and about people like us that are like esoteric,
that think like us, yeah,
spiritual, free thinkers, open to a lot of ideas.
Yeah. Our ideas on trippy ass shit.
Yeah, hallucinogens.
Our ideas on shit that we could have done better, but like we said, hindsight 2020.
And it can even, it can even be what people could be doing better in their lives, or what people could have done better in history.
Very true. We are definitely ancient history fanatics.
Yes, sir.
One of those things. All right, you want to kick it off with some imagination? One of our topics for today.
So our first topic is imagination. And let me ask you, what do you think about imagination? What would you define imagination as?
I would define imagination as a person's ability to be able to see stuff that isn't right there in front of them, or that the world hasn't already shown them, and to create something new out of the void. Like to be able to take something from your mind that hasn't been seen, or that maybe you haven't seen in this lifetime, and to bring it out onto like the paper, onto music, into reality pretty much.
Okay. So basically bringing the non-reality into the physical.
Reality. Yeah.
Okay. So let's start out with the dictionary.com version of imagination. So they say it's the faculty of imagining, or of forming mental images or concepts of what is not actually present to the senses.
Oh, shit.
So, meaning like you can think of something and it doesn't actually have to be there, and you can construct it in your mind, and it doesn't actually have to be physical, kind of like what you were saying.
Damn, am I Webster all of a sudden? Am I Merriam-Webster?
I mean, you are really smart. You read the Bible, the Torah?
The Quran.
Quran, see? Which probably 90% of you guys haven't, but it's all Gucci. That's why we're here.
Skrrr!
All right, and then it says number 2, the action or process of forming such images or concepts. So just like creating images in your head. All right, and then the Wikipedia definition is, imagination is the ability to produce and simulate novel objects, peoples, and ideas in the mind without any immediate input of the senses.
So it's pretty much like taking something without any of your tools for being able to interpret things in real time and bringing it into your mind.
Exactly. So, but that can also mean you can either do it, you can either create something, or you can just leave it in your imagination. But what really is that?
Yeah.
Are you really living in your imagination, or
is it somewhere?
Exactly. Like what we talk about a lot, is when you get into like quantum theory and all that stuff, like a thought is still something, so it has to exist somewhere in the universe.
In energy.
Exactly, in energy. So
what are your thoughts on imagination? If someone were to ask you, like, where do you think imagination comes from? Or, like, what do you think the purpose of imagination is? What would your answer be?
Yeah, and I was thinking about that a lot today, and I don't know, I've just been thinking about a lot of that, of just thought in general, and then it's led me to dimensions. Excuse me. And What I would think, or what I've hypothesized, is that it has to come from another dimension, because it can't be it's not third dimensional. You can imagine anything. Basically, your thought process is non-linear.
It doesn't apply to physics. It doesn't have any sort of grounding to what we see in front of us.
Exactly. So it has to come from an outside dimension or whatever, for the lack of better words, to become physical into the third dimension. So I think that it has a lot to do with some things we can't explain when it comes to dimensions, and how things are all kind of intertwined. And like, I would say that there's inner workings that you can't see because of the vibrational frequency that we're on. So things could be happening right in front of us that we can't see, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist,
It could be like working for us right now.
Exactly. And imagination is the drive to manifest all those things that could be possibly happening.
So you think imagination goes hand in hand with like the law of attraction and like all that shit?
Exactly.
Dope.
Yeah, and the law of attraction, what do you think about that? Has that worked for you a lot lately, or in your life at all?
I'd say that everything that happens in my life is a product of that, whether it's positive or not. So it doesn't matter if something happens to me negative or something happens to me positive, or if I put a lot of work in or there's an absence of work. All of that contributes to some sort of attracting factor in my life of bringing something either like pushing it further or bringing it closer. Like I can give you a real time example of what's going on in my life right now.
Okay.
In terms of like success with my creative side. Because I'm not putting a lot of work in on music or networking or any of that stuff, a lot of the opportunities that I was seeing for myself even a year ago, where like people would be hitting me up for shows like every other week or like all that stuff, I've seen them like move away. And it has nothing to do with like a negative feeling or a positive feeling. It just has everything to do with the vibration that I'm resonating at. You know what I mean? It's not like a judgment. It's not anything like on me. It's just like if I was working the way I was, then I would be getting those opportunities. And I see that in every avenue of my life. In everything, like when you put in work at the gym, you feel like going to the gym. And then you attract yourself to the gym. When you stop, an object in motion stays in motion. An object staying at rest stays at rest.
Momentum,
so,
exactly.
Exactly.
And it's crazy because just like you just thinking about something just makes it happen regardless of if you can say, I'm not thinking about anything, guess what you're going to be doing?
Not thinking about nothing.
Exactly. You're still thinking about something. And then also, what you were going back to what you were talking about being at the gym and stuff like that. Imagination is the only reason that you have that momentum to want to do things, and it's built inside all of us. It's kind of like an instinctual type thing is what I'm getting at, is like, that you should be working your body out because you don't feel well, even if people can bring up the most scientific facts that say, no, veganism isn't, correct, and eating meat is the right way, but if it makes you feel right and that is your actual, it's actually it's fulfilling your being, then what you're basically
could say, yeah.
And you're basically going against it. And like it's built inside of you, like it's already encoded inside of you that what you need to be doing. Like if you're not making enough money, you can't blame it on the fact that your job sucks. It's because you need to start working harder to get a better position in that job or save up money to do something else. It's all
exactly.
It's all about.
And most millionaires have 6 or 7 different streams of income. They don't just have one stream of income, and that's where a lot of people they're like, oh, I just gotta go harder in this one place. No, it's like you gotta pay yourself. And then you got to open up other streams of revenue. And that's something that we're going to do in the future.
But people think that you have to go to these seminars. I mean, don't get me wrong. Speeches help, like motivational speakers, all that stuff helps. But it's encoded inside of you. You know what you're supposed to be doing. And if you're stagnant, it's because you're making yourself stagnant. You're imagining yourself in your room. Every day when you get off work, if that's what you imagine, oh man, I can't wait to get home and watch Netflix.
Damn, I'm a victim of that kind of imagination at this moment in time.
And I can't say that I'm not as well. I play a good amount of video games right now too. I've been getting a little back into my studying, touching up a little bit, but yeah,
I'm happy we're here right now though.
Exactly, man. We don't really get to talk too much out of work, but I mean, we talk about this stuff at work, but
dude, we be going in at work. We be talking about dimensional theories and ancient history and a bunch of shit, different shit.
So, one of the godfathers, or I mean, a guy that really really was interested in imagination was this dude named Neville Goddard.
Oh, shit.
He wrote a book. What is it? Let me see. The Feeling is the Secret. He's wrote a couple books, actually. Feeling is the Secret, The Power of Awareness. He's got a couple. So we'll go over a couple of his quotes and see where he's, what he's working with. Because he has a lot of stuff that just pertains to what we're talking about. Oops, sorry. And then just like,
Dude, I've actually had a bunch of people recommend that name before.
Neville Goddard?
But I've never, looked into it, ever.
Yeah. He even goes, and I'm paraphrasing really, really hard, but talks about how the ancients basically knew this type of information, about how the law of attraction is brought through thought and all those types of energies, and how imagination is a key factor in that. And then we could even go into quantum and string theory, where they do these experiments where the protons become particles only when they're being looked at by conscious.
Dude, that's one of my favorite scientific experiments, to be honest.
Conscious minds create the particles, but if not, they're waves. So there's another thing that it proves that imagination has to come from somewhere else,
Because the God brain imagined the world and created physical reality. And if nothing had concentrated, its mind or whatever a mind is in dimensions higher, if nothing had focused on physical reality, then physical reality would be the vacuum still, probably.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But if you guys don't know what that means, that pretty much, in simple terms, when you look at things in the quantum, and I've talked about this before, it operates differently than in the realm of physics. In the realm of physics, things operate in a certain way, but in the quantum reality, matter doesn't respond the same way. Matter is only matter when you're viewing it, when you're looking at it. And when you don't look at it, it could be there or it could not be there at any second. It's very random. And so when you focus on something, you actually make it real.
Make it real, exactly. So consciousness creates your reality. No matter if you want to think it or not, it's been proven.
Scientifically.
There you go. Well, for all you science heads. All right, let's see a couple of his quotes. An awakened imagination works with a purpose. It creates and conserves the desirable and transforms and destroys the undesirable.
Screw.
Boom. Nothing comes from without. All things come from within, from the subconscious. Boom.
Real shit.
So we were talking a little bit about the subconscious, and I watched a dude named The Real Merkaba, and I was showing you a couple of videos about that. Shout out to that dude. But
that dude's a genius.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good information. And the subconscious is basically still you, if you want to be technical, because the subconscious is just everything. It's picking up all of your surroundings while you're not being conscious of it. Mm-hmm. And so even if I'm focusing on this table or on this camera, I'm still picking up everything in the surroundings. I'm picking up, if you're moving just slightly, if it's in my peripherals, I can see that. So that's subconscious. So it's picking up all this different information. Then when you go to sleep, all that subconscious releases itself, and you're still a subconscious being. Just because your body is physically asleep doesn't mean that your energy is asleep, because energy cannot be destroyed or created.
It's so just here.
Exactly. So it's just there. So your physical body is sleeping and recharging yourself while your subconscious is releasing itself.
Doing some crazy shit.
Exactly. And that's why you get your dreams all over the place. You have some anxiety, some fear or something that's going to happen in the future, and you keep thinking about that every day. What happens? It comes out in your dreams every single time, in one form or another, no matter what. So a big part of really getting your imagination and getting your psyche really strong is practicing and strengthening your subconscious. That's where it's at.
For sure. When you were talking right now, I thought of something really trippy.
What's up?
I kind of thought of, how we have a president, and that president is the figurehead of a nation, but there's all the bureaucracy and all the government workers and all the branches of government and everything that really does all the work and makes shit happen, but then the president kind of gets blamed or not blamed for everything.
Mm-hmm.
The way we identify as me or you is kind of the president of the conscious and subconscious, because it's the 5% that we're aware of and that we can see and we can blame ourselves. But that other 95% that's buried below the surface is doing all like the real working. That's like telling your brain to send electrical signals to your fucking hands and telling your heart to beat all the time. And like that's not shit you're consciously aware of. You're not like putting in work, but you're like the representative of that work.
Exactly.
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
And that shows in your diet, it shows in your everyday life and whatever you do, you know? And like people like to always say, you know, like luck, I got lucky, I got bad luck, but your vibration speaks for itself, you know? You can definitely, like, I know I could have been a famous, rich rapper by now, but that's not what I'm destined to be, you know? Like, I'm not destined to be a rich, famous rapper that wears gold chains and only cares about money and doesn't give back to the community and doesn't talk about actual things that go on, you know, and only cares about his personal circle, which don't get me wrong, I love, you know, I put on for my family, but there's a bigger purpose to all this besides just
Straight up
my personal gain, you know?
Straight up.
Exactly. So, I mean, I can sit here all day and be like, man, these
Yo,
niggas got so
this.
lucky. Yeah, that fool at 17, Lil Tecca got put on, man. Like, look where he's at. He can't even put out half of his music or any of his music. You know, it's just like, I don't want to be controlled in that sense, you know? Like, I want to have control over my world. And if that means organically doing everything that I do, then...
Or taking time or possibly never getting there. You know what I mean? Like
I'll get there in my own way, though, you know? Like, just because it's not...
That,
yeah, exactly. If I get 1 million plays and it means something to someone and it changes and it sparks an idea into someone's life, then that's way better than me ever wanting to be the top, you know, on the top Billboard 100 or whatever.
Very true.
Yes, sir.
All right, you want to segue into another thing?
So what did we do? We did imagination.
I think imagination would go good with grit.
Imagination.
What do you mean grit?
Grit's like my first topic.
Oh yeah. Let's run it.
Yeah. Okay. So since you're using your phone, I'll pull out resources that I had to.
Sorry,
I was trying to like memorize. No. I thought it was gonna be a little. I didn't even know what I thought I was gonna do, but I do have some articles saved, and that'd be a real cool way. All right, so if you don't know what grit is pretty much the key factor from there's a psychologist named Angela Duckworth, and grit is like a key factor in her recipe for success, for determining whether or not a human being will succeed or fail based on if they have grit in their life. And grit is the ability to persevere and push through during times where you don't feel like persevering or pushing through. Like when you could be putting in an hour in the studio, a person with grit will put in an hour or 2 or 3, while the person that doesn't have grit will be like, I don't feel like it today. And I think everyone has elements of the success and failure person inside of them, but the person that has more grit more of the time will succeed farther in life than the person that has less grit less of the time. And I think it's super important because like just looking at my own like, you know, ups and downs over the years, during the times where I, no matter what, just come in here and lay something down, even if I don't like it or not. And he was talking about this the other day, like he sometimes will go home and just work on a track for like 15 minutes. And then if he's not feeling it, then he'll do it. But at least he went and put in like 15 minutes of time. That's like what a grit person would do. Because when you're just like constantly tapping out, I can't do it. I don't feel like it. You don't get as far as the person that pushes through that feeling.
And that's, you can even just go apply that to the law of momentum right there. Boom. Like, you know, that's just how reality works for the most part. Like, if you're not doing what you want to be doing at least once a day or at least twice a day, you know, you're never, and you skip it. You're like, oh, I'll do it once a week, you know, and then eventually I'll do it twice a week. No, it's like, do it once like an hour every single day, and then you'll get used to the routine, and then eventually it won't even be like what they say work, you know, because it's just part of your daily routine. Because before you couldn't tie your shoes, you know, you had to learn to tie your shoes. What, you just didn't want to learn to tie your shoes and never gonna do it ever again? So because fuck it, you know, like what the fuck, you know, you consciously, or you figure out a way, you know, around that stuff. Like you figure out, oh, I can tie my shoes and slip my shoes on. So, you know, you think you work smarter, not harder. So you just, but you have to keep applying the pressure.
Dude, in a podcast that I did with Yamina, we went in on this in like the financial sense, because I feel like a lot of people, something that my grandma taught me when I was younger, when I would save up money and I would give her like $100 and she put it in my stock account and tell me like where to allocate it. And she would always tell me, she's like, Matt, one thing I want you to know when like I hand over the control of this account to you after you're 18, 19, whatever, how old I have to be to acquire the account, I want you to know that there's two things that create a successful person in stocks or in investments and an unsuccessful person. And that's the unsuccessful person will see the market go down, sell everything they have in a share, and then try to buy the one that's booming.
Exactly.
But the successful person will ride out until the price is higher, then sell, and then buy the one that's doing bad and wait for that one to do good. Because it's not about what it looks like on the outside. It's not about like, and if we're going to go back to working, it's not about how you feel in the moment. It's not about what your brain's telling you, the story that you're telling yourself where you're like, fuck, bro, I can't do this today. Like, I just worked for like 11 hours. I'm not trying to do this. I'm just trying to cuddle up with my girl or watch Dragon Ball Z or, you know, like all the shit that we do.
Oh,
but it's not about that feeling in the moment, because if you can just like push that feeling aside for the 45 minutes that it takes us to record an episode every other week, or however much we're going to do this or whatever else we're trying to do in life, then we'll get way farther than just listening to that every time.
And by the way, this is our first installment, and we have been talking about it for a while. So this is an example of that, our first, you know, initial spark. And then now that's up to us to keep it going. And
dude, and we got energy, man.
We got this.
And I don't even feel like our full energy is radiating out right now because we're brand new to this as like a duo, but we'll get there, bro.
Yeah. Definitely do our more research, and hope you guys like what we're talking about so far. What else you got about grit?
What else do I got about grit? I think it really shows the character of someone's person if they don't, you know, see the world in this way. If someone doesn't like to put in a lot of work in, I feel like the person that does automatically like kind of like steers clear of the person that, you know, is kind of lazy and is kind of like not trying to get stuff done. And I've seen it happen throughout my life, at least with friends and relationships that I've tried to foster, but the other person doesn't want to put in as much time. I've just seen like my interest dwindle, and it's never a thing or it's like a personal I don't like you type thing, but the other person will always be like, oh, this person's a hater, da, 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 da. They're not trying to do this no more, da, da, da. And as a positive person, I'm just like sitting there like, damn, because I was always told like you could be doing everything right and you're still gonna have like someone hating on you for something that you're doing. And it's true, if you're just following your path and doing the things that align with you, you might not have even hated on someone, but they'll feel like you're hating on them just because you're doing you.
Exactly. So there are people that would say that, yeah, I don't care about really succeeding or, you know, bettering myself. I'm comfortable with where I'm at. I got what I need, you know, I got food, I got shelter, da da da. And there's also people that have all that and they still decide to keep becoming, you know, more and more successful, maybe even, you know, losing more relationships over, or, you know, personal relationships over the fact that they're so busy with work and stuff like that. And where does the line either be drawn, or how does the human, you know, is the human supposed to only be gritty, or is it supposed to be a balance of both?
This is a fucking deep, layered question, and there's many ways to answer it. So I'm gonna take the capitalist perspective first.
Okay.
From a generalistic standpoint, as a society of human beings that are forced to progress, because if not, we will remain stagnant as a race. It's really important for more people than not, or at least the representatives of our group of people, to have a grit mind state. Because if we're not like propelling ourselves into the future, weird shit happens when people get too comfortable. You know what I mean? Weird shit happens when people are feeling like they can take more than putting in. So when you have someone that's putting in, and not taking a whole lot because they're just advancing society and advancing culture and just, innovating and creating new ways for humans to do things better and better, I don't think that ball can ever stop rolling, because if it did, there would be chaos.
Mm-hmm,
you know what I mean? Like, and that's where I will say there is a type of person out there that is totally, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So I think that person's important too. That's the consumer. That's the person that's gonna buy the innovation. That's gonna chill with their friends and just create relationships and be social, and that person's loved by their community, that person's loved by their family, and that's a real important person for society as well. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
Fuck yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah, there's definitely a room for both, and so
but that person can't be the representative of the human race, because the human race has to keep innovating and has to keep finding new and better ways to do things.
So essentially, the gritty should be the ones that are more elite, I would say, or they're more the shot callers.
And I think that's how society already falls as of right now. I think that people fall into their place, and like that's what you were saying earlier when they're like, oh, so should we feel any sort of way about this? And no, I don't think we should feel like negative or positive about that. I think people choose their position, and then, I mean, where they end up in life shows.
Exactly.
So
my next question is what I was asking you maybe last week or something, and you were going into yoga about us being, enlighteners, or trying to at least tell people that there is more than this life, or there is more than just what you're doing, but not trying to force it onto anyone, because is it my responsibility as a human being to at least try to help them progress, or are they just good where they're at and I should be just worried about self?
Dude, it's such a complicated fucking question, to be honest, and I feel like there are two different parts of me that would answer that in two completely conflicting ways. There's a part of me, and this is the yoga part of me, because yoga would tell you to speak your message. The people that are supposed to hear it will hear it. They'll come to you. They'll learn the information. And those are the people that you were meant to enrich their lives, enlighten them, better their lives. That's your community to like direct your energy towards, because you don't want to direct your energy towards people that don't want to hear what you have to say. You don't want to try to drag a horse to water that's trying to drink some soda. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. You can't like push up against someone and have them want to even listen to you. So that's like the yoga side of me. And then there's the other side of me that's like, well, nah, fuck that. Because if no one ever said anything to me about any of this shit, then I would have never like got to where I am. Like, I had to have a lot of resistance and a lot of thoughts that like negated each other, and a lot of cognitive dissonance to even get to the point that I'm at. And I like where I'm at mentally. I think mentally I'm at a spot where I will continue to forever advance. And then now it's just about to get my outer reality to understand that too,
Exactly, dude. Yeah, so I mean, we can all just bring it back to duality and how there's a balance of both, yin and yang, everything. There's going to be good and bad and good, but...
Or just not even look at it like that at all and just look at it as different grays.
Yeah, different grays. Yeah, different versions of the same. But fucking... Oh, we might get demonetized. We ain't getting monetized with this one. But, what was I going to say? It's like... That does, yeah, it's just, you can try to teach someone to, be better their lives, but if they really don't care, then was that what makes the human race not progress as fast as it does? Or is that just part of what it really,
Oh, you're asking me, or is this rhetorical?
No, yeah, this is just rhetorical. Yeah, this is just rhetorical.
Okay, because I got to answer.
Yeah, so is that what makes the human race what it really is, or does it have to be a balance of some people that just aren't just going to really care, and then the people that are really just going to advance?
So I think the way things are right now, in terms of how society's set up, there's going to be both of those people, and I think that it's made for both of those people to comfortably exist and coexist, and for things to kind of operate how they've operated. Now, if we're going to talk about a conspiracy to keep people a certain way because that's what's going to be what's profitable and not have a race of humans that are all on this level, I think it's totally possible that that's happening too.
Yeah.
I think it's totally possible that the way shit is set up is creating this duality. I don't even think a duality even really exists, to be honest. I feel like you have to go past the duality, past the good and the bad and what I should or should not be doing to like understand that all of us have this potential inside of us. And that's the part of me that disagrees with yoga too, because it's like, if there wasn't the way the media is set up, fear-based, the way that music is set up, lust-based, the way that like politics is set up, it's about attacking the political opponent. It's not about sharing ideas and picking which idea is going to work best for people. It's about, my idea is better than yours, and you're a terrible person because you did this, and they'll lie on your name, and they'll cap on you and all that shit. So like, I think if our society wasn't structured like that, that progression would happen not only naturally, but so much faster.
Exactly.
So much quicker.
Exactly. So it was just something that was just a question I had, because me and my girlfriend were going back and forth, because we were just arguing existence, or maybe not even existence, but purpose. And she's kind of an advocate of, this is the life, and it's not really like we don't really need to backtrack to figure out where we came from or what this existence is, because we are just right here where we're at, and you're gonna live your life, and you're gonna die, and then that's it. But that's a mindset in its own. You don't have to ever want to go do any research on your history or ever want to advance. But
I mean, I think it's an important perspective for part of your life to be able to feel that way, because that'll take a little of that existential anxiety away.
Exactly. But if you have an intuition, like I know she does, and I know you do, and I know everybody that's watching this does, that there's something greater out there. Like, and we don't even have to get into aliens or UFOs or anything like that, but just what we just talked about, a fourth dimension or another dimension that brings in your consciousness. How are you going to say that only the things that in this world exist?
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe she just hasn't had the experience yet to show her why that's so important.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, you can come to certain realizations through different paths. It can not be important to her to learn anything about the past, but be so intact with being in nature that she realizes what her purpose is, because
everything's connected.
Exactly.
Every little thing. And
by even telling yourself you have no purpose, that's a purpose. Having no purpose is saying, oh, my purpose is not to have a purpose. It's a big conundrum. So either way, there is purpose. And another thing that I would think that was almost proof positive that a purpose exists is love, hate, that you can feel a certain way, and it's a collective consciousness. It's not like there's obviously like subjective things, like some person's love might not feel that great of a love to somebody else's, but the love is still a concept that's there, and it's always going to be there. And
it's a concept everybody shares. And
there's certain things that if there was no purpose, then why would we put water into seeds and they would grow? Like, it wouldn't matter. It would just be atoms that just existed.
It's just a mechanism. That's what science sees it as. It's just a mechanism.
But even if it was a mechanism, that's a machine that has a purpose.
Yeah. But the way I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson get all like his panties in a twist, like with this purpose thing, is it has a mechanical purpose. But he's like, if you're gonna talk about like a holier than thou beyond, like the great beyond purpose, that's when he'll stop wanting to talk to you.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well then, yeah, I guess we can stop there. But there are people that won't even get past that. That you could, even if it's a mechanical purpose, that means that there is a purpose. So. Are we good? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, it's just without purpose, there would be grit wouldn't even be a principle.
Very true. Because what are we doing it all for if we're all just gonna die and none of this matters?
Exactly. Why does it matter to make human beings more comfortable if you don't care about the next generation because they're just gonna die, because it is what it is. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah, like I said, it's a good thing to be able to like be like, it is what it is, and yeah, I'm comfortable with where I'm at because I love myself, and there might not be anything after this, so I should live it right now. Like that's a good mindset for part of your life, but there also should be something driving that, and that's what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like the understanding that we all are interconnected, and that everything that you do has an effect on someone else, even if you think it does or not.
Mm-hmm. And your personal life in general, you know, people that think they're depressed, and I know, don't get me wrong, I don't knock on, clinical depression or any type of like mental illness, but the brain is so powerful. It is so, so powerful. You can definitely, if you thought yourself into the depression, you can think yourself out of it, and that's just how your brain literally works.
Yeah, I used to have so many fights with my dad about that because my dad is clinically depressed, and I feel like you can diagnose someone, and I think that the diagnosis is important to be able to pinpoint the problem, to self-analyze, to help yourself feel better, but I don't think it should be a permanent thing.
Yeah.
Like, I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at age 5, and like if I were to think that, Asperger's is going to affect me for the rest of my life, then I would be socially awkward. I would not be able to do this podcast with you, look at you eye to eye. I would not be able to have the beautiful relationship I have with Yamina. I wouldn't be able to do all the things that I do socially. And that's because I don't look at it like a permanent affliction. And there are people that do look at like it's a permanent affliction, and those are the people that all your homies would look at and be like, nah, I ain't trying to chill with him. Yeah, he's slow. He's not chill. He's not one of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of LSD and marijuana later, and here I am. But straight up. But the other thing, wait, what the fuck? I totally just went on a tangent. We were talking about clinical depression, right?
Yeah.
I'll just end it with this. The mind is super powerful, and one can do whatever one wants to do with their mind if they know they can.
One more thing. I was diagnosed with asthma since the age of 7 or 8, and I was supposed to use an inhaler for the rest of my life. I haven't used an inhaler in a couple of years. Breathe fine. You know, I decided one day I can do this. I can breathe, you know. It's mind over matter. These are all sayings that we hear, but we just say, those are just sayings, you know, but what are words? What are words made out of? Letters. You spell the words out. You're casting everything into existence.
Skrr. Higher concepts that we got to dive into deeper at certain points in time.
Yes, sir. All right.
What's your second topic?
Okay, well, we're just going to talk about, let's just talk about our favorite engineers, or just, what we like about, you know, engineers and in
music?
Artists. Yeah, music. We'll switch it over to a little music topics. I was just, listening to, or when I listen to music, I know everybody has a different objective when they listen to music. But when I listen to music, you told me this, and I didn't even know this is why I listen to it. It's to feel the energy at certain points of the song. I mean, that's not why you should, but that's what I do. You know, I listen to how a certain thing makes me feel. So the engineer is the most important part of a song. This is what's gonna make your vocal, or that's gonna make the artist's vocal stand out in the whole mix. So you're gonna hear every single word they say legible, even if it's Young Thug going crazy. You know, if you really slowed it down, you could hear it because it's not being overtaken by any of the instruments, any of the drums, you know, anything like that. So an engineer is the key to how modern music really sounds today.
Yeah, and without the engineer, most people that are just consuming music on the daily kind of overlook it, but if you just go into GarageBand, lay a couple drums down, lay your vocal over it, it sounds like a muddled mess.
Yeah. And
the engineer has to take mathematical equations, create plugins that emulate, you know, live sound. Like let's say you have an amplifier. Well, you can create an amplifier in the computer with ones and zeros, but you have to understand mathematics. So then you have all these mathematicians making these audio programs for it to be so easy to make you be able to feel something. But in reality, the computer is just emulating what we've already been able to do with technology, which is emanating what we're trying to fucking copy instruments, which at the end of the day, the instrument is what makes you feel.
Exactly. The bass instrument, you know, the bass guitar, the kick drum, those are all things that you feel the vibrations when you're in the room with them. But they can emulate them so you can hear them through your car speakers.
Shit's fucking nuts.
Yeah, so the engineer is fucking crazy. But
break it down.
we like I like the Baby's engineer. I don't know too many names.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, like, you shout out your like top 3 favorite like artists in terms of their mixing, and then right now I'm gonna look up their engineer.
Okay, yeah, the Baby. We'll start off with the Baby. Shout out to Baby. He's doing a huge thing. I love that mixing, bro. What we got? Can you look it up that quick?
I don't know.
Who else? I mean, a lot of modern stuff. Travis Scott. We're gonna like Travis Scott. Who is it? He works with a lot of different people.
Mike Dean is like go-to mastering engineer,
and he does a lot of movie sound engineering, right? So yeah, that's fucking key. Yoga Mat's fucking dope. Who else?
Well, here I'm finding like artists that have produced for him. They're not really gonna put the motherfuckers that do the crazy work.
Engineer, yeah. There's I think it is there's engineers that work in studios. You know, there might be a couple personal engineers, but they send it off to a label. Most of these dudes to get it engineered properly.
Mm-hmm. But I think that someone with a unique sound definitely has to be the one to be like, I want this person and I want them to do this.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get the art. Like, otherwise every artist would sound the same, but you can tell when a fucking The Baby record comes on that you could hear his voice. You could like mute all the characteristics that make his voice sound like The Baby and just hear the audio effects, and you still know that it's that full because of how his audio effects sound.
Exactly.
But most people probably wouldn't hear that shit like we do.
If you pay attention, you can. I don't know, dude. To be honest, I haven't even been listening to that much music because we are also engineers ourselves. So I mean, we do references. I do references all the time, but like I like Rich the Kid's engineer. Like however he makes his sound, however makes his voice sound. Oh my goodness,
Rich the Kid got a loud sound.
Yeah, icy sound. That's what I'm a fan of, the big upfront vocal, and that's a very key thing. But it can also be detrimental if you don't do it right.
Very true. If there's too much, then you can't feel the rhythm in the background.
And that's a lot. That's something I struggle with. So that just all comes with time.
I mean, the engineers that are making these records the way that they are have been in the game for 20, 30, 40, exactly. Have experienced all these different waves of music. So, like, any artist that is struggling because they don't feel like, oh, like, I paid this dude to master my track and it didn't come out the way I wanted it to, or, oh, I paid this dude to mix this vocal, but it didn't come out the way I wanted it to. You got to understand, to get your record to sound like something on the radio the label has paid for, you're using the intelligence of someone that's probably been in the game 40, 50 years of engineering, or someone that was mentored by someone like that. Mm-hmm. So that's a very, very select group of people that can create a sound that pristine. And when you get to that level, you'll get a sound like that.
Exactly.
To be honest.
Take the stage, sir.
I was going to say, I fuck with Gabi Music, which is a little subsect of Sony that's for like Sony Latin, and that's Gabi Music is a producer that works with like Ozuna, Wisin y Yandel, Nicky Jam, fucking Anuel, a bunch of the different Latin and reggaeton artists that are out right now doing big things. Sky Rompiendo does a lot of the J Balvin stuff, and those dudes, like, I don't know if our listeners know a whole lot about Spanish music, because I don't know who's going to be listening to this when it first starts coming out. But all y'all. But Spanish music is a wave that no one can deny right now. And the way that the music makes you feel is not like any other music that we've ever heard before. And the way that those fuckers mix those vocals, dude, it makes me cry sometimes. Like, I'll hear a song for the first time, and the way that the fucking harmonies and melodies are meshed together, sitting over that fucking Spanish guitar and those like solid reggaeton or like whatever kind of drums they're using, I sometimes tear up, and I'm like, I want to learn how to make music feel like this when I record it, or when I slap a C6 multi-band compressor on it and try to get the EQ of the vocal to sit exactly right to get that like pristine, like it sounds like a diamond gliding on a fucking string or some shit.
Yeah, exactly. You know. What I mean?
But yeah, shouts out to those fuckers because those fools got it. Those fools got that shit.
A lot of people don't realize, man, that these engineers are really the reason why a lot of all your songs sound. You see, sometimes you'll be like, "Oh my god, how did that bass hit that hard?" It's like, yeah, these guys can really, really tell what they're doing with sound. You know, they can morph sound in any type of way they want. And that's the craziest part about it.
We are apprentices of said people because we be mixing and mastering and referencing tracks all day to try to get it there.
Yes, sir. Maybe next time we can talk about a couple maybe compressors and EQ and stuff like that.
That we like to use?
Or just in general, you know, the idea and like the concepts behind them and what they do.
That'd be dope.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
All right, you want to move on to what was my language?
Yeah, we can do language. You have nothing else to add to music?
Well, yeah, I could add some of my favorite. I did the Spanish ones, but Travis Scott, like you said earlier, my absolute favorite, and it's not because he's a great rapper or he's the best singer or any of those things. It's just everything and how the music takes you from place A to place B at the end of the record, from place A to place B at the end of the album, to the branding of the artist itself. Like when you hear Travis's vocals, no one else sounds like that. Like you hear the ad-libs that he brings in, or the way his vocal delay sounds, or little signatures he'll put in his mix that no one else can replicate, and that's what makes an artist an artist. And I think that he showed everyone how to do that when he came onto the scene in like 2012, 2013, when he was hooking up Beyonce and Jay-Z's drums in their albums around that time, and how he's helped push hip-hop sound to this, like, everyone's using auto-tune, I feel, and doing the whatever the fuck they're doing because of this fool.
And yeah, that's all because of the engineer too. Like Travis could have that whole idea. You could hear a Travis song, but if it wasn't engineered the way it was, you probably wouldn't like it half as much as you actually do, because the intensity of the music is what makes it. And people don't realize, dude, music is all you can say it's everything because vibration is everything, sound. But music is a huge influence on how your mind works. Like, why do you think all these old people were listening to Beethoven and Bach and all those dudes, man? It was stimulating their mind. They knew exactly when they went out and dressed up and listened to classical music, they got a stimulation from it. It made them feel a certain type of way, and then they became successful. Music's everything, man. We'll get deeper into that. Hindsight's 2020, man.
Dude, we could talk hella about frequency and like what the different frequencies do to your mind, but we should move over to language.
Language, yes, sir.
I kind of already dibble-dabbled in it a little bit, but yeah, I be listening to Spanish music literally all the time, and recently I started to diverge off into Portuguese music with this artist I like called Uroshi, and then I be listening to Hebrew music too from an artist I fuck with called Subliminal, and I think it's super weird that I can get better and better every day at a language just by like rapping along with an artist and saying words I don't even know. And sometimes I'll like intuitively understand what the fuck they're saying just based off the vibration, the energy, and what the whole vibe of the word sounds like.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Because, what is language? It's just sound, Like we can put constructs on it all day and say that sun means this thing and microphone means microphone, but
at the end of the day, it's what is this that the word is a middleman.
Exactly.
So if you know
interpret,
if you know how to like point to this in any language and say what this is, it doesn't matter what a microphone is. It matters what this is. Mm-hmm. And that's a weird way to do it. My fucking Spanish teacher in junior year when I was 16 would tell me, he's like, don't try to translate anything. Just point to something and think of what that is in Spanish.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, have someone talk to you, and like, I'll tell Yamina this all the time when I'm like, what does this mean? And she'll be like, it means, and I'm like, don't say what the word is in English, just show me what it means. Like she did it the other day. She was like, I was like, what does suéltate mean? Because we were listening to this song called Date la Vuelta by Luis Fonsi. And she was about to tell me what it means. I'm like, no, what does it mean? So she starts like fucking with her hair, and she's like suéltate, like lift your hair up. And I was like, oh shit, okay. So when someone says suéltate tu pelo or suéltate el pelo, that means lift your hair up. And I was like, oh shit. So now, like, if I see someone lifting their hair up, I think suéltate.
Exactly.
I don't think lift hair up.
Yeah, and that's a better way to do it, because then if you just identify the action with a word instead of translating it first, you eliminate the middleman, and the middleman is a lot of things that's where everything gets kind of mixed up, and a lot of things in life, middlemen are just the middle, the translation of things can just be so off by just misunderstanding. So it's just crazy.
What do you think about language? What do you think, where do you think language came from?
I think language is so crazy because it is very, very useful, but at the same time, I feel like it is the reason, or one of the greatest reasons, why our earth is so, not united or so
Very true.
differentiated, because we have a language gap, a language barrier. We can't understand each other. People like to say that fool is fucking black, that fool is da 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 da, and then say it in a different language. He's da da da, but if we all could come to a universal language, we could understand each other even better. That not saying that it would end violence or anything like that, but it would definitely we would come to an understanding, and understanding is what I think we need in this. But language, I don't even know if we can go body language. Probably before they were even speaking in tongues, they were speaking in body languages, or, from what I've encountered in my research, they could have already been talking in some kind of like mind language, not even like ESP almost, like they didn't even have to talk really. It was just the thoughts were so vivid that they were projected to another person, and then that they could know exactly what that was literally.
Are you talking about like our ancient ancestors?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, like going way back then, like they didn't even I think that modern language, like speaking, is very, very new to human beings.
And like I said, it can be a device, and it can also be a hindrance, because, like, okay, for instance, when my girl used to get her nails done at the nail salon, and all the Vietnamese people would be chilling up in there doing her nails, a lot of the time you can hear them talking in their native language. But you know what? We all know what body language is. Mm-hmm. So when this fool is shouting across to the other fool what he doesn't like about what's going on in his encounter, not necessarily with us, but another client or whatever, and he can get away with it because he knows that this person doesn't understand it.
Know what the fuck that nigga's saying.
Exactly. But if we could all understand each other, then no one could hide and cower behind, using that to like put that mm-hmm. barrier up, because you'd have to deal with someone, you'd have to like deal with them face to face. And like, I feel like the best way to become a better version of yourself is to be able to like speak how you really feel to someone. And when you have a language barrier, you can't do that.
You cannot. Why do you think this language barrier exists? Why do you think that? We know why, but
we could go Tower of Babel on them and talk about that myth and how it could have actually happened.
What?
Like, in the Tower of Babel myth, God sees humans uniting and coming close to the kingdom of heaven by building this tower. It's all a metaphor. It's all a metaphor. They're trying to approach divinity by like literally building a tower to get into the gates of heaven. And you could look at it literally like they really built a tower, or they could have been progressing mm-hmm. so much that they were coming close to being creators of their own universe.
Exactly.
Or creators of their own reality or anything. And so, boom, scramble. He just like created all the different languages of the world, because now there's this big barrier up between even me and you. Like, I could hear the word understand and think of all the ways I've understood, and then you could think of it and think of that word in a totally different context based on how you understand things. Mm-hmm. And then there's already a barrier to communication.
Between the same language.
But the same language and the same people that hang out with each other all the time. Like, even me and you here, like, I could tell you something, and then you could say it to the next person, and you would have used different words.
For sure. It's like proven. I mean? Yeah, that's definitely how it works. Mm-hmm.
And it might even be an ego thing, because you wanted to put your own spin on it, and then eventually it just goes and goes and goes until it's not what it started as anymore. But this doesn't ever change because of how we describe it.
Exactly.
This doesn't change because of how we describe it.
Exactly.
It just is. And that's what language should be, to describe what is. Trippy. Let me reset the camera real quick. But you can keep talking. You can keep talking.
So if we're gonna be, we can go back in history, and then we can start off with, what did we have? We had the ancient Egyptians. What they were speaking. They had there's an African language. The Greeks had a language, and what they say, the Israelites had a language.
Mm-hmm. Oh, do you want me to look up what all the language families are?
Yeah, let's figure out.
Real quick, because I think there's like 10 language families.
Okay, and they all derive from a couple, right?
They actually don't know what is the original prototype. They can't trace it back, and that's where, like, I actually was reading an article about how linguists have actually pointed to the Tower of Babel as an actual possible real occurrence, where all the original languages got scrambled, and there isn't no way to like trace it because there's no remnants of it. Isn't that crazy? That's trippy, huh?
Yeah, that's
That's fucking crazy.
We could even go as far as to bring the flood story into it. Have all the people that were wiped out in the flood, or that, fled underground or whatever.
And there actually is a bunch of evidence to say that there was one. Like,
I mean,
up until very, very recently, that was just a myth. Like, there was no proof that flood had ever actually happened. It was only something believed by the Abrahamic religions and different people that tell that tale. But now there's actual evidence of a period called the Younger Dryas period, which is about 11,000 years BC, where there was a drastic and rapid climate change. And there's actual evidence that they're finding of a crater that hit the earth around that time and how it drastically changed the weather. And if they can trace it back and like prove it, then they can prove that there was a time where a flood just and like destroyed everything that was there. And Göbekli Tepe, did you look that up?
Not yet.
Dude, if you're watching this, look up Göbekli Tepe. It's an 11,000-year-old megalithic structure that was built around the time where people were thought to be hunter-gatherers. And a hunter-gatherer is pretty much someone that can use tools to like fish and stab meat and get their resources, but not a civilization that's able to build 20-foot tall T structures with 3D carvings of animals that aren't even on that region now. Showing that the weather and the climate was different then and the people were more advanced. One more trippy fact about this whole thing is 11,000 years ago is also Plato's legend of the fall of Atlantis. And that's right when that climate change happened. So, and look it up.
And if you are a free thinker, a researcher, do a lot of research on ancient Greek mythology and all their philosophers, dude. They have a lot of key information. They have a lot of key information in there.
It actually taught me something new about Judaism that I didn't know. And it tripped me out because I was listening to the real Merkaba talk about it. And he was like, yeah, the Jewish people might have, or their language, might have been derived from Greek or something? Or what was he saying?
So what he was talking about was how there's no Hebrew texts that predate the Septuagint.
Okay. And what I was tripping on is because when I was in Hebrew school and Sunday school when I was a little kid, they always taught us that Hebrews have been keeping a record of our culture for about 5,779 years as of now, and whatever it was when I was like 8, because we have like a Jewish calendar. And as soon as I heard the real Merkaba say that, I was like, nah, I can prove him wrong right now. I look it up. And we've only been keeping that calendar since 1200.
Yeah, exactly.
The year 1200 is the only provable point of origin for that calendar. Everything else was like, this dude at that time said this about that time.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know humans fuck up in terms of, especially in the year 1200 when all the power was in the priests, the rabbis, the politicians. There was no internet. No one could look it up for themselves.
And there are people that in control that
Wanted.
take over and do whatever they want. The conquerors write not the conquered. You know, they write the history. So
his story.
Exactly.
Whoever wanted it to be that way. So the Jewish calendar might not even be that old. The Jewish people might not even go back that far. Who knows what our history is beyond what we can prove in our lifetime, to be honest.
I mean, we could... the oldest civilization that we know of is Sumerians, exactly. And that is... What do they date that back to?
That's about 6,000 or 6,000 BC, but we're already finding like structures that are older than that.
And
but they
human
can't tie
remains.
but they can't tie it to like a civilization where
Exactly.
they can find pottery, writings, all that stuff. But that doesn't mean it wasn't real. That just means we can't prove it yet.
So do your guys' research on language and history, because it's not just what you guys think. I mean, you guys like we were talking about earlier. There's people that are like, man, fuck history, bro. I gotta roll up this joint and fucking go to work tomorrow. But
yeah,
it all really ties into why you gotta go to work tomorrow. It's.
And if you don't know the past, then you can't prepare for the future. Because if you're going about life just doing what it is you feel like, you could save yourself a whole lot of trouble and time just by figuring out what people have done that's failed in the past. And it doesn't mean you can't still have your experience where you try it and fail, but boom, you can level up that much faster just by learning what's happened before, and it'll expand your mind too. Because if we don't learn about the Holocaust, or we don't learn about what happened to the Japanese people in World War II, then we don't know if someone won't do that again with people that don't know that that's happened in the past. You know what I mean?
It's a limited history. So, oh, wait, nukes are okay. Bah,
yeah.
It's just...
I wasn't even talking about nukes. I was talking about concentration camps for Japanese people in this country in our parents' lifetime.
Yep.
In our grandparents'
Mexicans
lifetime.
in our lifetime
right now.
Right now. So, shout out Mexicans. We love you guys.
But it's not as bad as the shit that was happening to the Japanese and the Jewish people. It's bad, but it's not as bad as, getting led into a gas chamber and fucking, or like beat to death. I hope that's not happening right now. I can't say that it is or isn't, but.
And black slavery, but that's a whole nother topic. But so I mean that's all. The languages are basically from the conquerors, so we're just getting a watered down language of any. Wait, you thought of something?
Nah, you just went in my mind right now. Keep going.
Oh yeah, the language our language is basically of our conquerors. So this is a watered down version of so many different things. Why do you think when you look up a word, it gives you the Latin prefix or the Latin root or anything? Because we're speaking words that they were from Latin, bro. And then Latin can be traced back to wherever there's a root to wherever Latin's from, It's just...
We're totally ADD because we totally forgot about the language families. All right.
No, well, because I fucking, I couldn't, my phone doesn't work in here for some reason. I tried to look it up.
All right. A language family is a group of languages related through descent from a common ancestral language or parent language called the proto-language of that family. All right. According to... There's 7,111 living human language distributed in 141 language families. Damn, I was wrong. I thought there was 10. And there's also a group of dead languages or languages which have no native speakers living, extinct languages which have no native speakers, and no descendant languages. Finally, there are languages that are insufficiently studied to be classified, and probably some which are not even known to exist outside their respective communities. All right. I want to know the boil down. I want to know what are the language families.
There's a bunch.
You know what I think? So there's Indo-European, Altaic, Kradai, Austronesian, Semitic. Semitic is where Hebrew and Arabic and stuff comes from. Slavic, that's like Russian and like Czechoslovakian and all that. Romance, which is like France, Spain, Latin
French.
America, Portuguese, all that stuff.
France.
Germanic, Sino-Tibetan, Austroasiatic, Uralic, Afroasiatic,
Yeah, Afroasiatic.
Niger Congo, Dravidian, Nilo-Saharan. There's a lot
Sorry
of
if we're fucking up these names, by the way.
yeah, Creole. There's so many.
Yeah, there's a good amount.
I didn't even realize because there's so many different countries and there's 100 or something families. Japonic, Tungusic. I'm not even gonna keep going, but
But the point is that we don't even know why we speak the language we speak. Where you don't, I mean, just in America, we speak Bible language. If you want to even get down to it, because
King James Bible.
that's where we're speaking the language so we can read the Bible. That's basically what it is. Because before that, English wasn't even really a thing.
Yeah, I mean the Bible used to be the only book people had, and that's how they would learn everything, which is why we have all this different, like predetermined and preset reactions to certain things.
Exactly.
As a culture, not as an individual, but as a culture, like people will react based on shit that they know of in the Bible or the Quran or the Torah.
But also, we also have to realize that a lot of this stuff is distractions from a lot of the things that are going around the world. So don't just follow entertainment, follow everything around the world and keep yourself informed.
Hindsight 2020.
This is Hindsight 2020.
We can look back at it and be like, yo, we could have done this different, but in reality, we should just look forward and be like, we're going to do that better.
Yeah, and that's basically all of our topics kind of had to do with that, about people doing stuff in the past and how we can learn from it. That even stems to imagination, how the hindsight was 2020. You saw it, and then you made it, you
straight up
manifest into existence.
Dude, it's been a real chill one. We've been super chilling.
Well, this is our first Hindsight 2020. I know we both were a little, camera shy, or not even camera shy, but we're just getting used to talking to each other and getting this down. If you guys want to shoot some comments on our next topics or what we can do better, greatly appreciated. We love you guys. We love all you guys.
Everybody. Peace out.